Welcome to Urban Alliance's Leaders Like Me speaker series. Leaders Like Me launched in 2020 and was specifically created as an event led by our interns and our students. It's an opportunity for our students, all of you, to connect directly with national leaders of color who work in the public, private, and nonprofit sectors. We so appreciate the participation and support of our Urban Alliance community, including our staff, board members, and all of the students from our regions, Greater DC, Baltimore, Chicago, and Detroit. I want to extend my heartfelt thanks and appreciation to Kinshasha Holman Conwill, Deputy Director of the Smithsonian Institution's National Museum for African American History and Culture. Kinshasha is an incredibly inspiring, amazing person, and I'm so excited for all of you to get to know her today and get to hear more of her story. I'm so excited about today's conversation. It's my pleasure to now turn over the program to Jonathan Galloway. Jonathan is our program coordinator in the Detroit region. He joined Urban Alliance in 2021. Before joining Urban Alliance, Jonathan was a teacher at the Detroit Charter School University Prep, where he taught US history and senior workshop. His professional experience includes education, youth development, workforce training, and college and career placement. Jonathan is a native Detroiter. Please join me in welcoming Jonathan Galloway.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you. That was a wonderful intro. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Hopefully you guys can see me. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to get into this program. Miss Kinshasha is amazing. We're gonna love her. I know we all are. So let me just run down, a few housekeeping items. First, we are recording today's meeting, and it will be placed on our YouTube channel next week. So, if you missed it, if you want to show your parents, if you want to show people in your class, you'll be able to show that right to them next week. I want to ask everyone in our audience to please keep your sound on mute, just so we won't disrupt anybody and we can get this great speech, and this great Destiny is going to be amazing as well. So if you haven't done it, I've seen Jeremy mention it a few times, but put your name and your region in your Zoom title. And then remember, students, we have to stay on camera for this event. And lastly, if you haven't done so, I want to call some of them out. What's your favorite kind of art form? So that's music, visual, abstract, murals, animation. What's some of your favorite art forms? Let's see what we got in the chat. Anybody saying any? I see Kanye West. Okay, that's an art form. Music. Okay, photography, that's a new one. Animation, painting, great, thank you. Those are all wonderful. I think I'm a music guy. I'm a music person. I'm a music person as well. So definitely, especially the theater. Okay, I like theater. Good job, Kayla. Okay, I love them all. All right, so thank you, everyone. I would now like to introduce Destiny Banks, our student moderator, for today's Leaders Like Me conversation. As her program coordinator, which has been a pleasure and an honor all school year, I'm so proud of Destiny. I'm excited to introduce you to Destiny Banks. Destiny is a senior at Martin Luther King Junior High School in Detroit. Through her Urban Alliance internship, she has the opportunity to work at Rocket Mortgage. Destiny has received six JROTC awards. She's involved in several clubs, including Young Women with Purpose, Girls Making Change, and the Midnight Golf Program. Destiny plans to attend Alabama State University in the fall. Anybody else going to Alabama State? In the fall, to major in public administration and minor in mass media communications. Please, guys, welcome Destiny Banks.
Thank you, Mr. Galloway, for that awesome introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. I am very excited to moderate today's Leaders Like Me series. I am delighted to introduce our guest, Ms. Kinshasha Holman Conwill, Deputy Director at the Smithsonian Institution's National Museum of African American History and Culture. Ms. Conwill is an acclaimed author, lecturer, and writer on visual arts and cultural policy, and has served as the Deputy Director for the museum since 2005. During her time at the museum, She has worked to fulfill the museum's vision of expanding its collections, fostering external partnerships, and developing exhibitions and programs. She was the lead editor and co-editor for projects ranging from exhibitions, catalogs, to books on the museum's collections. Ms. Conwill has an extensive career in arts, having curated more than 40 exhibitions. She has national recognition and was named one of the 100 most influential museum professionals of the 20th century by the American Association of Museums. Wow. And last year was elected to the American Academy of Arts and Science, an honorary society of world leaders in arts, science, business, philanthropy, and public affairs. OMG, everyone, please join me to welcome Ms. Kinshasha Holman Conwill.
Destiny, thank you for that wonderful, wonderful introduction. I wanted to look around and say, who is she talking about? But I guess you're talking about me. So
yes,
thank you.
Ma'am.
It's an honor to be
with us today.
It's my pleasure. It's my absolute pleasure.
Do you have anything to add before we get started?
Well, I wanted to say that I'm so glad to see folks from these great cities. I, like Elizabeth, live in, as we call it, the DMV. I live in Washington, D.C., and I consider, of course, Northern Virginia part of my world. Baltimore is not that far away, but Detroit and Chicago are also really important to my life in terms of connections to family and culture. We know these are all some of the great cities of the US, great cities with diverse populations, great cultural organizations. And I did want to just note that I'm one of those on this day people, on this day in history. And some of you may know that on this day, Malcolm X, El-Hajj Malik El-Shabazz was born, a great activist and leader. And I want you all, my one assignment so far will be for you students to look up the poem Malcolm X by the great poet from Chicago, the former poet laureate, Gwendolyn Brooks. And it's a wonderful evocation of Malcolm X. I would recite the whole thing, but we don't have time. But I hope by the time we get finished, people will have looked it up. I probably will, Destiny, by the time we finish, quote a few lines from a poem by my late father, M. Carl Holman. It's called Into the Leaders. And I think of it when I think of people like you, young people, because you are our leaders. So I'm just delighted to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we are happy to have you. Okay, so let's get started. Our first question. Briefly tell me about your career journey. What led you to the National Museum of African American History and Culture?
One likes to say, particularly in front of august audiences like this, I had a path and I followed it and everything worked out just fine. But another great city in my life is Atlanta, Georgia, where I was born. And I think that probably sealed the deal for me in terms of a path, in that it's a city where Black achievement was honored. And even in the height of segregation, which is when I grew up during Jim Crow segregation, but I grew up in a community that included the great colleges and universities of the Atlanta University complex. My father taught at Clark College, and I hope somebody's going to Clark Atlanta somewhere. And my mother taught at the wonderful Booker T. Washington High School, but I was surrounded by adults who supported me and believed in me. It was also when you all talked about your favorite kind of art, very early on, I was attracted to visual arts. In the Trevor Arnett Library at Clark, there were wonderful murals by the great artist Hale Woodruff. And seeing them as a child, they became imprinted on my mind. And I looked at postcards and books and other things that my parents had of artists varying from Charles White to Picasso. And so early on, I thought, this is something that's exciting to me. So I would always draw as a child. By the time I finished elementary school and we moved to Washington, D.C. And I came to the local junior high school, is what we called it then. I was interested in the humanities. I was interested in writing and poetry and still interested in the visual arts. And I took a wonderful art class or two with the great teachers at what was then Western High School. Now it's Ellington School of the Arts. And I went for a year to Mount Holyoke College. And what was missing there, even though it was a fancy school, lovely school, it didn't have art. And so I came back home and went to Howard University, one of my best choices in life, and enrolled in the College of Fine Arts. And I had wonderful teachers like Lois Maylou Jones and Jeff Donaldson and many others. And it was a school that had a long tradition, as Howard did in general, of Black excellence and of a diverse range of teachers, including teachers from the African continent, like Skunda Bagazi. And so that just really embedded in my heart and soul more and more about visual arts. And we also had performing arts departments there, drama, music. I was there at the same time as Debbie Allen. She's a little more famous than I am, just a little. So this was a part of that. I was trying to decide as I moved out of college, where I met my lovely husband, the late Houston Conwill, also an artist, what I would do. I was drawn to the civil rights movement, social justice, because of my family's involvement, but I couldn't get out of my mind the notion of the arts. I moved to California with my husband. He knew what he wanted. He went to art school and that was going to be it. But I thought, I'm not sure. Eventually went to UCLA and got a degree in business. Now, why would an artist get a degree in business, you may ask? An excellent question. I asked myself that every day of grad school. But then part of that was an internship back on the East Coast so I was at UCLA, but going back to the East Coast to New York City, to the Museum of the American Indian. And that really made me think, okay, museums are where I need to be. So from then began my long association with museums. I went back, got my degree, came back to New York with my husband and started working at the Studio Museum in Harlem, which just made me a museum person for life. I was a consultant to arts organizations of various types and various genres and disciplines and communities. And then, as I say to people, I was minding my own business at a museum conference, and Lonnie Bunch, a longtime friend, came to me and said, I'd like you to come and work with me. We're starting a museum at the Smithsonian. So it was pretty irresistible, though I did try to resist. And I ended up at this wonderful museum where I've been working, as you said, since 2005. And in between, I did other things. I edited books. I was in art exhibitions. I was on committees, and I traveled various places where there were important conferences and symposia. But those basic moments, a civil rights heart, a visual arts heart and mind, and a commitment to cultural institutions as a way to lift up Black culture. That's been the hallmark, I think, of my career.
That's amazing. Okay, you mentioned you always knew that you'd be at museums, like you always wanted to work at a museum. But how did you know that you would just wake up every day with passion and enjoyment and just be so happy? Like this is not even a job to me. So our second question is, when did you know that you'll have passion and enjoyment to enter this field?
Excellent question, Destiny. I think one of the moments, which I hadn't thought of before, was when I was at the Museum of the American Indian, and I was able to go to their storage, their art storage and artifact storage in the Bronx, New York. Some of you know the Bronx, I'm sure. We also called it El Bronx in New York, and a magnificent collection, 1 million objects, if you can imagine, from the smallest pomo baskets to teepees, to costumes, to gold jewelry. And I was overwhelmed. And I was able, as an intern, to work on a major exhibition. So I got to work with the registrars and the conservators and the curators and the educators. And so that whole process of a public institution bringing culture to the public made me see museums in a different way. Because I first thought museums were kind of dusty places, weren't very open to the public, weren't very inviting. And remember, if you grow up in segregation, you don't think of institutions as being there for you, right? You think that's the place that says no admittance, yes? So this was a whole new way of looking at an institution. And I had tried to resist it a little. I said, I gotta go back and be an artist. And I did do art performance. I did continue to exhibit, but I was drawn in it, inseparably, inextricably to museums. And I have not been able to let go ever since.
Thank you so much. We are living in some very challenging times, and our communities are experiencing tragedy and trauma, systematic racism, and inequalities. How would you advise us to handle this? What can we do?
One of the things you should know, young people, we all are depending on you. So sorry, hope you're ready, because it's all on you. No, it's not on you. What I would surely say is make common cause. I was happy to see the beautifully diverse faces of the students here. You're from all kinds of backgrounds. And my father taught me and my brothers, and my mother just knew everything already because she was just brilliant. And my mother herself was the daughter of an African-American woman and a Japanese national, very unusual in the early part of the 20th century. So, but when I look at African-American and Latino and Asian American, Native American, and also our white allies and friends, I see the promise of America. And one of the things I would say is never, ever, ever lose heart, never lose heart. And when terrible things like the killings in Buffalo or the killings in Charleston take place, yes, mourn, yes, be angry, and try to turn that mourning and anger into action. And action is what it is to each individual person. For some people, you write a poem. Many people like music. You compose some music, but talk about it. Don't keep your feelings to yourselves, and don't feel that there is no hope, because there's so much hope. The Urban Alliance to me is all about hope. From the first times I was ever invited by Mary Zients and others to have lunch at the Urban Alliance, and I heard the stories of what the students have done and the coordinators have done, and I met some of the folks who were the job partners, it reignited an already deep faith in human ability. And no matter what happens, you keep on keeping on. One of our exhibitions at the museum is called Making a Way Out of No Way. And that's a kind of mantra of Black people through decades of trauma, because you use the right word, Destiny. That was a perfect word. It is traumatic. And that is why it's important to connect with family and friends, to speak about your feelings, and to not be ashamed or afraid of being sorrowful. Let that out, because you're human, and that trauma is real. And there have been many studies about the trauma that Black people and other people of color have felt. I think even if my grandfather hadn't been Japanese, even if my oldest friend wasn't Chinese American, I would still be wounded by the attacks on Asian American and Pacific Island folks. But I think I feel it in a different kind of way. But I feel any kind of racist, homophobic, transphobic, anti-Semitic violence as violence against me. And I think as long as we see ourselves as a part of the whole, my suffering is connected to your suffering, and we have compassion. That is, we suffer with others, and see what that means for us individually to lead to action.
Thank you. So take our feelings and emotions and turn it into actions.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What would you say is the toughest lesson you've had to learn in your career or in life? How did you handle it?
Well, I'm still handling it. Just yesterday I was handling it. I think part of it is tied a little bit to what you just asked me, Destiny. It's that life is not about permanent solutions. Life is about what you are able to create. Now, what is eternal? Love is eternal. Scripture tells us that faith, hope, and love all abide. And the greatest of these is love. And it also tells us in that scripture that love never dies. Let me make sure that you students understand, whether or not you're a Christian is irrelevant. The Bible is literature. The Bible has some of the best words any humans have ever written. So if there's no other time to say it, one of my greatest admonitions, please, to all of you is read, 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 read. Never stop reading. Find the poet you like. Find a musician who talks about her or his work. Read, read, read. But I think that abiding faith in oneself, in other people, in community, help with the toughest things, which is there is nothing more cruel than people's inhumanity towards other people. And we see it happening in Ukraine, in Myanmar. We've seen it happen with the Holocaust, of course, the Middle Passage. And at our museum, we deal with that all the time. And to work in a museum that I've loved, and I love working in it, but every night as we were building it, I would go home and I would think, I would almost have this film of all these visuals of Black trauma. And sometimes I would tell my husband was still living and my mother was still living. And I was saying, I don't know if I can take it. I've seen these images all my life, but to see them all over and over again, because we're building a museum. And if you build a museum, as Dr. John Hope Franklin taught us, he was the head of our scholars committee. He said, you've got to tell the unvarnished truth. The unvarnished truth is one of the toughest things you ever face, because it's almost hard to believe that people can be so cruel, but also it's magnificent to believe that people can be so amazing. The great Rabbi Abraham Joshua Hessel talks about that every day he woke up amazed, and that amazement he was a friend of Dr. King's, and waking up in amazement at the possibilities of humans. So you have to look at that even though the toughest things are cruelty, trauma, racism, sexism, et cetera, it is counterbalanced by some of the greatest things: human possibility and love.
Okay. We have one last question. I, along with my awesome Urban Alliance peers, are about to graduate from high school. Some of us are going to college, about to get full-time jobs, or will continue career training. What advice do you have for us as we start this exciting new phase of our life? I can't talk today.
You're doing just fine.
Thank you.
I think my advice is, as Shakespeare says, to thine own self be true. Find out what centers you, what it is that connects to you. You'll hear your parents, you'll hear your mentors, you'll hear your advisors at the Urban Alliance, you'll hear your friends and others, but filter that through Destiny's brain and Kyrie's brain and soul, and say, what does that mean to me? What does that look like for me? One of the big questions out there for young people is, should I go to college or should I do other kind of training? And that's a very important balance. When I went to college, when people said, when did you go to college? I said, 1865. That's when I was in college, to just indicate that it's been a minute. College was so much cheaper when I went to college. Oh my goodness. I can't believe how much college costs now. That is not unimportant. The other thing, though, to keep in mind is there are a lot of fellowships and not only internships and scholarships available, particularly to young people of color. And I commend to you to look for those if you want to go to college. But if you are thinking, maybe I want to do some more kinds of training, maybe I want to do training in technology, maybe I want to do training in careers that don't require a college education, because that's another new movement. The notion, I was talking to Elizabeth and Maria about the other day, that there are folks, including corporate executives, who realize that the route to your future is not necessarily through a four-year college. It may be through some technical training, it may be through some community college and eventually a four-year college, or it may be some combination. I have a brilliant nephew. He happens to be named Kyrie. What a coincidence. I got some technical advice for an IT question I had from him He has not been to college, but he has moved and advanced in his career in IT because he knows his subject very well, very well. And he also has learned a discipline he knows the technology. He keeps up with the technology. He's got a great customer service attitude. He's very patient. He was patient with his old aunt saying, I don't understand that. That doesn't make sense. And just, calm down. It's going to be okay, and walk me through it. So your path is your path, Destiny. Everyone's path is individual. So beware of any edict that says everyone must do this. Well, maybe not. Maybe everyone must find their own path. And there's a great expression, make the road by walking. As you take those steps forward, you'll begin to see, it's not magic, but it can be magical. You'll see your path.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kinshasha. Now I want to invite some questions from our students. Remember, students, before you ask the question, please tell us your name, your city, and the high school you attend. Let's welcome Jada Walker.
Hello, my name is Jada Walker. I'm in the Baltimore region and my school is Western High School.
Hi, Jada.
Hello. So, Ms. Conwill, my question is that when you were given the power as deputy director, what was one of the things that you knew you wanted to convey with such a great platform?
Thank you, Jada. Wonderful question. One of the things I've been interested from the beginning in my museum work, Jada, is to always keep the public in mind. We are a public institution. The Smithsonian is a public trust of the American people. That is what kind of nonprofit we are. So being true to the public, looking through the lens of what will be beneficial to the public, thinking of all of our practices in education and exhibitions, not through the lens of a small group of people who are in the museum world and who speak, an inside language, but how do we, as we face the public with our programs, how do we make sure we are serving that public? Because the public good is what we are responsible for.
Thank you, Jada. Next, I want to invite Kyrie Lilly. Don't forget to introduce yourself, where you're based, and what school you attend.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kyrie Lilly. I'm from Baltimore City. I go to Grand Street Academy, and I'm 18 years old. First of all, I would like to say thank you, Ms. Kinshasha, for hearing us out and answering all our questions. My question for today is, based on all the knowledge and success you have endured over the years of working, what would you consider as a good business plan or plan coming out of high school?
You would ask a hard question, wouldn't you, Kyrie? I should have known if your name was Kyrie, it would be hard. I think having a plan is a good thing, right? I think, I don't have the Kyrie Lilly plan, but I think your plan, the fact that you're thinking of planning is a good thing, because some people go through life and they just get bounced around and they just do whatever comes their way. But I think thinking about what you want to do, and I said, please read. The other thing I want to say is please write. Please learn how to express yourself. You don't have to be a poet. You don't have to be a fiction or nonfiction writer, but please learn how to express yourself, because you're all, I'm hearing already, you're all have great oral skills, which are fabulous, but get writing skills too. So you can write your way to your future, I think. And, we know that, and you probably know more than I about this, Kyrie, there are templates, there are, plans that say, you look at this, you look at the pro-con analysis, you look at various things about where would you like to be 5 years from now and all of those good things. But I think the best part of a plan, the best part of looking at your future is making a plan. And it's okay also to adjust that plan. You're 18 years old. I can barely remember being that young, but your plan does not have to be set in stone, but your plan begins your pathway to your future.
One final question from Ms. Nyla Woolery.
Hi, Ms. Conwell. I go to Wakefield High School in the Northern Virginia area. My question is, what or who has inspired you to select what exhibit you share with the public?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first part of what you said, Nyla.
What or who has inspired you to select what exhibits you share with the public?
I'm so embarrassed. What has inspired me? Besides
Nyla,
everything.
could you repeat it one more time? I also had a hard time understanding.
What or who has inspired you to select what exhibits you share with the public?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And you know, technology may be great, but it's not always perfect. So that's interesting because I will, you know, a couple of things. Though I work in a history museum, I'm still very much dedicated to my roots in art. And so one of the things I'm proudest of, I'm proud of a lot of things, but I'm proud of helping to bring visual arts to the museum. I worked with two fabulous people, one who's retired, Jacqueline Serwer, who was our chief curator, and she has an extraordinary career in the arts, in visual art, and our current acting chief curator of visual art, Talisa Fleming. And they created a visual art gallery where I hope you all, particularly in the DMV, because you're closer, will be able to come to see the current exhibition, Reckoning, which looks at social justice and the visual arts. That I'm very inspired by artists. I always have been, and I always will. And also on the main floor of the museum, the first floor of the museum, in the central hall, we call it, is Heritage Hall. There are works of art by Sam Gilliam, Chakaya Booker, and Richard Hunt. And there's a new set of sculptures by Elizabeth Catt, one of my favorite artists. And many of the artists who are in our collection, pretty much all of them, have a narrative in their art that is related to social justice and African-American history. So I am really inspired by the intersection of expression, cultural expression, and a narrative that is part of the narrative of Black freedom. And that is threaded out throughout the museum. And I by no means curated all these exhibitions, but I hope that I brought to the table some of those interests. And surely in the work that I did previously at the Studio Museum in Harlem, that was really a big part of what inspired me. Thank you for your question.
Great question. Okay, Ms. Conwill, now we're going to go into the lightning round. So with the lightning round, I'm going to ask you a couple quick questions, okay? You're going to try to answer them under 3 seconds, okay? It's super fast. It's lightning. You ready?
No, but ask me anyway.
Okay. Best book you have ever read? 1.
Oh, that's so unfair. The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison.
Okay. One thing you can't live without?
Chocolate.
Okay. Personal theme song or favorite song?
Oh dear, that's too hard. Okay, lift every voice and sing.
Okay. What is your favorite sneaker?
Vans, okay? Am I hip or what? I wear
I love
skateboard
Vans too.
sneakers. I wear skateboard sneakers. I love Chucks, but they have no support. No offense.
Okay, last TV series you binge?
Oh, easy. Abbott Elementary. I commend it to you all over and over. Young African-American woman created public school teachers in Philadelphia public schools. Look at it all day long. It's fabulous.
Absolutely. Favorite part of your day?
The morning.
Okay. Favorite movie of all time?
I saw that. I can't answer that. I have too many. I love foreign movies. I love US movies. You know, one of the movies I love, it's a crazy thing to say, Buck and the Preacher. You don't know that movie. Harry Belafonte and Sidney Poitier. It's a way to take the Western saga story and turn it on its end. It's about freedom, African Americans, Native Americans. It's not that narrative of white supremacy. So I love it. But I also love Babette's Feast, a foreign film. So
what about
go
genre?
figure.
What about
Pardon?
genre? Favorite
What genre?
Mm-hmm.
Everything. I have to say, and I do say, I will say, I really commend if you have the energy, it being eclectic. And I was already that way, but I grew up with knowing a couple who worked at Clark Atlanta, Vess and Niece Harper. They ended up moving to Copenhagen. African-American people. He worked for Danish television. She was a stunning model and actress. And in 1950s and 60s Atlanta, this was a couple that had a Fiat car, a Siamese cat, and who ended up moving to Europe. That kind of combination. So yes, there's the movement. There's Dr. King. There's Charlene Hunter Gall. There, all the young people in SNCC, and there's John Lewis and Julian Bond and Judy Richardson and the Ladner sisters. If you live in this area, you know them. But I have to have my foreign films. If I am not reading subtitles, at least at some point, I'm not living. I gotta look at a film in a different language. I have to.
I understand. Okay, who's your personal hero? Got 3 seconds.
You.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. You're
That was
mine
easy.
as well.
That was easy.
Favorite place to travel?
Ooh. A place I love is kind of crazy, but I have a lot of family connection. Tidewater. The Hampton Roads. I love it. I mean, I've been to Europe, I've been to Africa, but I have to say, there's something about that part of the world. My parents met at Hampton, even though I'm an alumna of HU, our university. So even though Hampton is the other HU, that's where my parents met. So it's got to be a great school. But I have family there still. I swear to God, I'm not going to say Kyrie's name one more time, except this. My nephew Kyrie lives in Tidewater. But I love all of you, whatever your name is. It's, sorry that I don't have a nephew named everybody else. But
okay, and the last question. You ready? Phone app you use the most?
Oh, that's embarrassing. I'm a gram person. I'm the Instagram.
Oh, I didn't give you Instagram, Miss Conwill.
Destiny, I didn't know that I had an account. And someone said, you're on Instagram. I said, I am not. I guess I had signed up without thinking about it because Facebook was my first love. And I loved Twitter until something happened recently, which we won't mention. But then I fell into Instagram, and that's my sweet spot, Instagram.
Okay. Well, thank you so
You didn't
much.
know I was that hip, did you, Destiny? I see how surprised you were.
Say Facebook.
See, I'm not that old school. Jeremy, tell these young people, I know what's happening.
What about TikTok?
I'm afraid of it. I find it, except when I see really cute things of people dancing, I like that. But there's too much cray stuff on. You can't go there. No. Can't do it.
I understand. I get it. Well, thank you, Ms. Kinshasha. This has been a pleasure of mine to moderate this discussion with you, but unfortunately, I have to send you back to Mr. Galloway for a few closing remarks. Again,
Destiny, thank you. You are awesome.
Experience.
You are awesome. Okay.
Thank you.
This is the most fun I've had, and I don't know when.
Thank you so much.
This has been amazing. Let's all give it up for Miss Kinshasha Holman Conwill one more time, please. Applause. Put it on the screen. Your emojis. I know you guys know how to use them. Can you find them in the chat too? Put it in the chat. Thank you. I
like it. Please save the chat. I want to see the chat. I need inspiration. We talked about trauma, so whenever things are traumatic, I saw that somebody said I was lit. I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna talk about that all day. I'm gonna tell my relatives, dude, I am lit. Come on now.
No, you definitely lit. You're definitely lit. This was lit. This was a lit event. Let's call it that. So,
well, listen, thank you, and I want to ask Elizabeth and Maria, please tell Mary Seitz how well I did, because I'm always been trying to impress her, right? But
sure. She might be on, I'm not sure, but we will definitely tell her.
But you all impressed me. I want to thank each and everybody, please, who had anything to do with this. Destiny is my heroine. I mean, I bow before her, but you are all, wherever you are and whoever you are, you're so great. And I said this to my beautiful assistant, Danielle Lancaster. I want to thank her, and I want to thank my second assistant, Laura Voss, who do everything to make me look good. And what I said to them was, I said, finally, I get invited to do something by an organization that is together. We do preparation. We got memos. We got emails. When I needed to find an answer, there were like 4 people I could email. You should hear the invitations I get from people. They never write me back. They give me the wrong information. But you all are lit. You all are fabulous. And thank God that you exist. Thank God.
Listen, I appreciate that. And I can echo just the preparation around this. So thanks to the team that prepared this, Maria, Rihanna, the whole team, the comms team did an amazing job. So students and staff, like, let's continue this conversation tomorrow. Let's continue this conversation tomorrow in workshop. Use this time to kind of build on what we talked about and discussed here today. And thank you to all the students that participated. All the questions were amazing, and just it was a great time for me, for sure. I also want to thank our CEO, Elizabeth Lindsay, and all of our guests that joined us today.
Thank you, Jonathan and Destiny. You all were amazing. And definitely thanks to Maria, Brianna, and Jeremy for putting all of this together. But this was incredible. Kinshasha, we love you. You are truly an inspiration to us. I mean, you are amazing. Love.
And I saw that Mary was in the chat.
Yeah, she's here.
Thank you, and gave me love. I give you all love back. And you're invited to the museum. So please, Elizabeth, be in touch, and we'll make sure, if there are any times that students want to come. Perfect. We can, and all you older students, Maria and Jonathan and
me,
Jeremy.
I will be joining them. Yes.
Yes. But thank you. It's been an honor.
So before we all sign off, if this was in person, I would have us all gather around, take a selfie stick and just get a picture. But since we're doing it virtually, I just need everyone to get ready to smile. I'm gonna count down from 3. All right, you guys ready? We're gonna do it 3 times. So get your positioning right. Make sure the lighting is right. I'm gonna give you a couple. Are you ready? All right, so 3, 2, 1. All right, that was one. You ready again? All right, 3, 2, 1. Last one. 3, 2, 1. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again, everyone. You have a great afternoon. This video will be live on YouTube next week. So please don't forget, and make sure you share with your friends and family. Take care, people.
Thank you all.